Well, this past Friday, while many of us were still digesting our turkey over in Egypt at an Islamic mosque, these Islamic terrorists broke in and they came with bombs and guns, and they shot, and they all actually had cars blocking the road so people couldn't even escape. And as ambulances came, they shot on the ambulances. And so far, 305 people have died from that. And, you know, Muslims killing other Muslims because they don't think that the one group in the mosque was worshiping the right way and that it was heretical. And so they just take them out. And we go, that's crazy. I mean, I don't think any of us grew up in the Middle East, so it's hard to understand that. And I don't know if there's any former Muslims here, so it's even hard to understand that particular religion. But even that aside, when you hear about that and you see some of the news footage, you go, that's just nuts. Not totally unlike what happened in Texas at a church just a few weeks ago, that other than like one or two particular people, we're just taking out as many as we can, and we just can't wrap our minds around that. Well, almost be glad you can't. You know, we don't understand that, and I don't think we ever will, because, you know, we've all been mad at times and maybe said a few things, or maybe we got into a fist fight or something, but never have we thought, well, I'm going to load a gun and I'm going to take extra ammo and we just haven't even thought about that. So it's hard to understand someone who actually does what we've never even thought about. So we just don't get it. And the hard thing is, this stuff's not over. And you know that almost every Sunday I can get up here or the news and it's one more thing. And I don't care if it's over in Egypt or Asia or United States, you still have a lot of people that are mourning, that are grieving. And it's a lot of other things going on as well that we just don't figure out when young people who haven't had really a chance to fully live, you know, depart this earth. And we're going, that's crazy too. And so there's just a lot of crazy going on in this world, and Christianity or Christians, we're not exempt from crazy. I don't know if you've ever been in a church that things went haywire, and you go, that's just crazy. You know, the place where people are supposed to love each other the most and love God the most sometimes seems like God's not there, and they don't love at all. And they have their own, you know, sort of Christian version of a jihad or yihad. They have their own holy war. And so is right, and and you get all this stuff, and it's just crazy. And it shouldn't be, but it is. Well, this morning, you know, we've been going through Exodus, or maybe you don't know, but we've been going through Exodus, and I just thought, when God's people go crazy, when they go nuts, when they go off and it doesn't make sense, but it happens anyway. And so we've seen here up until this point in Exodus, recently God came down, descended from the mountain, and there's thunder and lightning, and there's smoke, and there's trumpet sounds, and the mountain's quaking, and God lets them know what the commandments are, and the people are scared, and they say, Moses, you talk to us, but God, don't speak one more word, because I think we're gonna die. They're so scared, we're gonna die. They're trembling. And then last week we saw about the tabernacle, but then God says, you know, Moses, come on back up the mountain. Come back up the mountain. I got to meet with you there. And, you know, Joshua gets to come a little ways, but basically you need to come alone up to meet me in Mount Sinai. So he does that. Before he goes up, he says, look, to the leadership there in the base camp of Israel, he tells the elders, look, I got to go. But while I'm gone, Aaron and Hur, they're in charge. So if you have something comes up, you go talk to Aaron and Hur, and they'll take care of things. He doesn't say how long I'm going to be gone because he doesn't know how long he's going to be gone. He doesn't say, I'll let you know, I'll send up a smoke signal, nothing like that. It just, I'm going to be gone, and then there's silence. So on he goes. And it ends up being that Moses spends 40 days and nights up on the mountain with God. So now you have all the people at the base of the mountain who couldn't go up, and they're sitting there going, what's this? We thought he's going to be back like in the afternoon. We thought maybe tomorrow, long weekend. I mean, what are they doing up there? It's God, it's Moses. How long does it take to... And the Bible reads that he goes up, and it's 6 whole days that Moses and God don't even meet. So Moses is waiting 6 whole days. On the 7th day, God says, okay, come on up the rest of the way. So Moses was waiting. What's that about? It's about a lot. See, things happen when people have to wait. We're different people when we have to wait and we don't know why we're waiting. No one gave word. God didn't say, Moses, wait here 6 days. Moses didn't say, people, wait here 40 days. We don't know how long. And so this is what happens. It says, now when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people assembled about Aaron and said, so here comes the people, here comes the crowd. They said, come make us a God who will go before us. As for this Moses, the reading is interesting. As for this Moses, not for our leader, this guy Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, really? Time and time again in Exodus, God says, I'm the one who brought you from the land of Egypt. Here they're going, this man, it was just a man thing. So this man, Moses, he brought us here. We don't know what happened. He hasn't let us know. And so we're kind of wondering what should be going on here. Here, one element of God's people going crazy is this, it's impatience. It'll drive you crazy. It will make you say things you wouldn't otherwise. It'll make you feel things. Sort of a question is, how long do you have to wait before you know bad things are happening within you? How long? Oh, what? Is it seconds? I mean, literally, is it seconds? Maybe minutes? It doesn't take long, does it? When you're in the car and you're waiting for someone else to leave the house, to get in the car, so you can together go to where, right? Doesn't take long. Church is over. Right? Church is over. And someone is waiting at the door. And you're in here and you're still talking because you're more social or you're more likable. Whatever it might be. And the person out there is like, no one wears these things anymore, right? It doesn't mean my wrist is bad. We used to be like it's the watch thing, and so they're like this. It just doesn't take hardly anything, and we're just agitated on the inside, and oftentimes we feel this thing. We don't like how it feels. We just know it doesn't feel good. And one of the most important things in life is learning to wait. Really, it is. Because all through your life, you will have to wait. Waiting is never pleasant. It's never convenient. But we have to wait. And one thing waiting says is the world does not revolve around you. And you're not as important as you think you are. And no one else marches at the tune of your particular drum. So get used to it. And all you parents, you must teach your children how to wait. And one of the best ways to teach them how to wait is for you to model what waiting and what patience looks like. Some of you that are in relationship, how long have you been waiting for the other person to change? And sometimes you don't just wait, you get on the front end of things. And you tell them what needs to, and you tell them how to. And what you're basically telling them is, this is how you can be more like me. That's what you're communicating, and that's just not going to go well, is it? And we know that. That's going to be like a dead-end conversation. That thing's going to escalate. Oftentimes, when we're impatient with whatever, and at the end, it's got to be either with God or people. Oh, by the way, God makes us wait. He really, really does. He does it like all the time. And really, when there's impatience, the being you're really mad at the most is God. Because He's the one that's at the back end of everything in life. And so things don't go as fast. Yeah, and I got things to do. But the issue is patience is connected to obedience. You can't obey God very long or very well without patience. Because almost everything He does requires time. And if you're so like this if you're so agitated all the time, you're just not going to be very obedient. And you cannot love God or other people without patience. Did you know that? Because when you're upset with them, when you're worked up with them, you're not having loving thoughts or loving feelings. And oftentimes you start calling them names. You're a slowpoke, and you're whatever comes out of your mouth, and it's not very kind. And there it goes. And so that's what's happening here. They're going to Moses. We don't know what's happened. What's taking 40 days? Wouldn't it be nice for God to let us know down here what's going on? Wouldn't that be the polite thing to do, for God to communicate, hey people, I know it's been a while, but just after 40 days you come back down. If He just let them know, I think they'd say, well, okay. What's going on up here is just taking longer than we maybe had thought, but he's coming down just a little bit, okay? And I think, but they did not know. They didn't know if it was going to be 40 days, 50 days. They had no idea. And oftentimes when you don't know, it also creates something going on. And so there's this thing going on in the people, and I don't know if it's primarily fear or confusion or panic. Panic is an extreme form of fear. None of these things we like, but when we just don't know, we often look around and say, someone has to take charge. Someone has to do something. Sometimes that's true. Someone does need to step in, but oftentimes, no one has to do anything. And we feel like, we've got to. Someone has to take leadership here. Someone, and well, if no one else is, well, I guess I am. And you'll see whenever there's a vacuum in leadership, and I don't care if it's here a couple thousand years ago, I don't care if it's in your home, in the workplace, or in the church, whenever there's an absence or vacuum in leadership, often the most or the least qualified people to lead will step in. They're going, something has to be, something, so I guess if it's to be, it's up to me, and they just step in and make a mess of things. Oftentimes leaders are not quick to step in, because they know they have to sort of view the landscape, get a feel for the surroundings, and then pray into it, and then maybe we know what to do. But now Moses, their leader, the one who connected them to God, is gone. Aaron's doing nothing. We don't know if Aaron is just slow. We don't know if Aaron is kind of not very mentally capable. We don't know if he's in tune with God, but Aaron is no Moses, and so he's not doing anything. So we're going to go, and we're going to tell Aaron what he needs to do, and that is he needs to make a calf. That's what he needs to do. He needs to make a God who will go before us, because Moses isn't here anymore. What they're saying is really we need to displace God. We know there's this God. We know He's up there in the mountain doing something, or at least He was up there. We don't know what's going on. But He hasn't shown up lately, so we need a God, or we need something that represents God here. And so, Aaron, would you do that? Because we need to worship, you see. And you go, that's just crazy. To displace God, to put God on the back burner, to make God irrelevant, to make God optional. Didn't God just say in the 10 Commandments, I am the Lord your God who brought you up to the land, and you shall have no other gods before me. And by the way, you shall make no image or likeness of any God. That was commandment. You shall not do that. And they're going, yes, sir, yes, God. Idols are just bad. They're a bad idea. But that's what they're saying. We're not going to pay attention to the real God. Would you make us a God? How do you make a God? See, whoever makes something is superior to the product of which you have made. If you build a house, guess what? The people who built the house, you are superior to the house of which you have built. It's always like that. The product or the object is never superior to the one who built it. So how do you make a God in the first place? But it's never a good idea to demote God. And so they tell Aaron what to do, and this is what Aaron does. This is crazy. Aaron says, okay, everybody, tear off the gold rings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters. You thought earrings and guys was recent? It's not. It's like 3,500 years ago, at least in the wilderness, men had earrings. I don't know what it meant, but they had earrings. So he says, take off all your earrings and you bring them to me. And he took this from their hand and he fashioned it with a graving tool and made it into a molten calf. So he melted all the gold down, made I'm guessing a life-size statue of the calf, and he took a tool and made it look like that and said, there you go. I call that gutless leadership. When leadership fails to lead. Because you know what Aaron should have said, right? You know. What should he have said? She said, no. I'm not doing that. Well, more of us than you. To be a good leader, you got to listen to all the people, right? So they're trying to play this stuff. You better. We're going to gang up. We're going to say bad things about you. He should have said, no, I'm not going to do it. Do what you have to do. I'm not going to do anything until either Moses comes back or God tells me different. That's what he should have said. And we know that. But it's not easy to be a good leader. It's not easy to have courage in the face of people, especially when they outnumber you. And a little bit of the application, it's not easy to be a good parent. When your kids, whatever age they are trying to get you to do what you know is not good for them. It's not easy to tell them no, is it? Well, some of you are going, it's the easiest thing in the world. Tell them no all the time. Well, maybe for some of you, but others, you just wrestle and you struggle. It's not easy to have the wisdom of knowing, and a lot of times, when to say no, because what was no 5 years ago could be yes today because they're at a different place. I mean, when they're 10, Dad can have the car keys, the answer is what? That's not a hard one. Well, as long as your room's clean. No, you don't give them the car keys when they're 10. When they're 16, they don't have a car of their own. And they have their license, and Yeah, can I have the car keys? I'm just going down the road, got to do something. And now it's different, right? Now it's different. And so what used to be no isn't always no in some, so it's not easy to know when to say no. But there are times when it's always no. You know that. This should have been one of those times. Well, they might get mad. They may be disappointed. They may say that I'm not a good mom or dad. They may say they hate me, or they may do this. And see, the minute you're fearful of your kids and you have to have their approval, oftentimes you'll cave in. And it's not that I don't want my kids to like me, but if it means I have to abdicate leadership in order to get them to like me, I think I'm going to hang in there. Hopefully one day they will see that what I was doing was the right thing. It was because I loved them, not because I didn't like them. And, hopefully. But even if someday, or even if they never do, I'm still going to do what's right before God. And that's just in a family. But take it up to whatever level, when it's a number of folks. It's not easy. And you guys know it's not ever easy to have good leadership, wherever it's at. Right now, you take a look at our country, and I often ask, whether it's reps or senators or beyond that, what's our leadership like? And part of it, what is the character of our leaders today? Are they men and women of character? And you never get rid of character because of a particular party or of a particular agenda or because they get things done. Because if there's not character, guess what? They'll get the wrong things done. So character is at the heart of leadership, and unfortunately here, Aaron does not have the courage to say, no, I heard you, but I don't agree with you. That would just be nuts. In a sense, Aaron, you are adding to this crazy problem. God says that they are corrupt. He says they have turned away from me. They have made it a calf. They call it God. They worshiped it. God says they are obstinate, or they are what he calls a stiff-necked people, which is an interesting term. And we're talking about either like oxen or horses, and when you're like riding them or they're moving something forward, you have these reins. And so if you pulled on the rein, they would turn that way. I mean, their neck would go that way. If you pulled back, their head, their neck, and so they would stop. And what God's saying, when you're stiff-necked, that you are unresponsive to my leading. You refuse, you deliberately, because the easiest thing to do when someone's pulling on this is to go in that direction. No, you are deliberately despising my leading. You're deliberately saying no. So he says, you're a stiff-necked people. You won't listen to me. You won't obey me. You won't do any of that stuff. So it's 40 days, and God has this conversation with Moses. He says, you better get down there. These people are going crazy down there. You better get down there and straighten some stuff out. So Moses comes down. He confronts his brother Aaron. He says, what are you doing? This is what Aaron says. Well, he said, whoever has any gold, let him tear it off. So they gave it to me, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Aaron said, it's a miracle, right? How could we not worship what God has given us? He did us miracle. We just threw it in, and I was sitting there, and we're waiting, and presto, out comes a calf, and it was beautiful. Man, it's beautiful. How can you not worship that? This must be of God. And Moses thinking, Aaron, do you think I'm so stupid? Really? You think I'm so dumb? I know that doesn't happen. And don't you know it? God's not going to leave this alone. God never leaves idol making or worshiping alone. So there has to be this thing called consequences. And God's told some of the men, probably the leaders, to go out and find those responsible. And you you take them out. You slay them with the sword. Really? They just made a calf. Yeah, but it's idol. It meant that God, you're not that important. It's God, what you say, we're not going to listen to. It's God, we're going to do our own thing. It was idol worship. And about 3,000 men of the people fell that day. It's not that they tripped and stumbled. No, that means they died that day because we killed them that day. 3,000. They're not done because they're in verse 35. Then the Lord killed the people because of what they did with the calf which Aaron had made. So God said, I'm going to get people to kill with the sword. And when I'm going to pick up where they left off, and I'm going to also slay them or create a plague for them. Some of your Bibles read there was a plague that God did. We don't know sure how many died right there, but it was a lot. It was more than 3,000 for this, for that. There is always some price to pay when we wander away from God. You know that. There was always some consequence when we put God on the back burner. It's not that we totally deny God, but we have displaced and we have put something in place of God Almighty. Now, I don't believe anyone here has ever melted metal down into a mold, or maybe you're really good with a chisel and you made something. Or you probably never had a big log and you carved into it and out comes this thing and you call it God and you bow down, you get on your knees. You've never done that. You don't set up and you don't pray to that. You don't do that stuff. We would never do that. So there's lots of drama here, but what's that got to do with us? Great question. Glad you asked that. In 1 Corinthians 10, it picks it up. And it refers exactly to what happened back here. And it says this, now these things happened as examples, that we should not crave evil things as they also craved. Yeah, we know you're not making these images. We know that. But don't you crave what you shouldn't crave. See, not all cravings are to be obeyed. You could put the word maybe lust in there. Everything that your heart desires, you don't have to bow down to. You don't have to say yes to. In fact, many things that's in our hearts, your heart and my heart, we just need to say no. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. I know it gets in the way between me and God, so it's just not going to happen. They're examples, these folks are, but they're examples of what we should not do. And then it kind of goes on. It says, next 4 verses, do not be idolaters. Don't put anything in place of God. Don't let anyone distance you from your God. And don't act immorally. And really that word means sexually immoral. Don't do that. Do you think that is a good word for this nation today? That we should not act out in a sexually immoral way? I mean, we're nuts, aren't we? It's like everything's gone crazy sexually. And where does it stop? I don't think there's a stop anywhere in sight. Because once you get on this downward slope, it is tough to rein it in. It's tough to put the brakes on. It's just gaining momentum and steam. And things that we would hardly even whisper about in secret now is out there in the open. And they have parades about this stuff. And they have exhibits about this stuff. And if you talk down about it, oh man. Well, no wonder you're this narrow-minded, church-going, Bible-reading person. This nation, and I think largely the world, has determined to have its way in this area. And don't you get in my way. Don't you get in my way. If I want to do this, if I have that desire, that inclination, I need to work that out. That's just who I am. Oh my. And we all have things that we just need to say no. is a desire, yes, but it's a wrong desire, and so the answer is no. And part of us telling ourselves no because God is telling us no. Not everything we want should we have, because it's not good for us and does not glorify Him. So don't act out in a sexually immoral way. Nor try the Lord. Don't do that. Don't test Him. Don't see how far He'll put up with your stuff. Is the Lord full of grace and mercy? Well, yes, He is, and we're so glad for that. But don't put Him on edge, because at any point God might say, that's it. He probably won't slay us. He probably won't kill us. He probably won't cause a plague, but He will discipline those whom He loves. The Bible's real clear on that. And we don't want God to discipline us because that's not fun. That's tough. And by the way, don't grumble, don't complain, don't do that. It's an easy thing to do, but I said a couple of Sundays ago, whenever we grumble, complain, ultimately who we're grumbling against is God. Because at the very least, God allows what's ever going on in your world. We may not like it, but don't complain about it. We may not like someone, don't complain about it. Finally, therefore, these things happened as an example. They were written for our instruction. See, this what all happened back here in Exodus, it's an example. It's for us to learn from. So we don't do what they did. So, in 1 Corinthians 10, let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. That's the big lesson. So all this stuff, and here's the therefore. Don't overestimate yourself spiritually. Don't think too highly of yourself. That's a prideful thing. And by the way, because if you do, you may just fall. You don't want that to happen. We all have spiritual and character faults, don't we? We all have these blind spots, don't we? We all do. We don't like them. We wish they'd go away, but they're still there. Maybe they're not as big as they used to be, but they're still there. And they're always going to be something that's there. So just be careful you don't see other people's faults more than you see your own. Because other people see yours more than they see their own. Normally. Don't do that. And finally, it says here in 1 Corinthians, therefore, my beloved, you flee from idolatry. You flee. It's an interesting word, flee. Flee is kind of the visual form of repent. There's confession. Confession is when we agree with God and we say things either in our heart or with our mouth. We agree with God, this is right and that's wrong, and I'm wrong about certain things in my life. To flee is the visual from that. It means I know this is wrong. When you flee from idolatry, whatever that idol is, it means that I'm not going to get close to it. Flee doesn't mean that I'm going to keep looking at it and I'm going to slowly back up. It's not that. To flee something, anything. I use this example. If I had a big snake and I just threw it out there, what would you do? In fact, I had 3 of them, one over here, big snake. Maybe I'll do this next Sunday. Back here, big snake. Would you say, oh, he's so cute. He's so cute. Here, snake. You know, here, you reach in your pocket for something to eat. Most people, those people are weird. But most people, you know what you do? You would say, it looks like a snake. Looks like a snake. What kind of a snake do you think that is? Do you think that guy gets a poisonous snake? What? You wouldn't do that. You would, and you wouldn't just slowly back. There would be a stampede. There would be panic. There would be understandable fear. We would move as quickly as we could, and hopefully it's not gaining ground, right? And Get out of there. And that's the idea. That's the visual here, that we flee from idolatry. We don't see how close and how long we can sort of shoulder up to an idol. We turn our back, which is the meaning of repentance, and we go the other way. Because I don't want to be anywhere near this. I want to put as much distance as I possibly can from this idol. See, an idol is anything that separates you from God. We know there's these big ticket items. I shouldn't do drugs, and that's right. You shouldn't, and I shouldn't be a violent person and shoot people. Yeah, that's right. But idol is anything that separates you from God, and most idols are not labeled as idols. Many idols are good things taken to an extreme and takes God's place. There's an idol called food. And you need to eat or you can't live, so food's a legitimate thing, and we need to eat. But you've also heard of comfort food? So now have I heard of it, I got some with me. Right? And so whenever I need consoled, whenever I need to feel better, I just go and eat. And it helps just a little bit, but really it brings on a lot more guilt and stuff, guilt and shame. You don't feel good about yourself. And so it's easy to take something that's legitimate and turn it into an idol that I know I don't eat what I should. I know I eat way much more than I should. And it's comfort food and I just can't. And so it can be food. It's easy to do. It can be money, and you know this one, that a lot of people they are not generous. Well, I can't afford it, but anyone almost can and should be generous all through their life. But it's easy not to be, and so you're always concerned about how much money you have or how much money you need, and almost all your waking time it's about money, and so that can be an idol. It can be a lot. It could be people. It could be a family. Really, you love your family, but don't let your family get in the way of your walk with God. And if they refuse to walk with God, I will, even if they don't. And if you're married and your spouse doesn't come to church, you come anyway because that's the right thing to do. And if you're a child and your parents don't come to church, just hey, what's up with that, right? Give them a hard time about it and see if they'll at least do something to get you here. But you don't let anything or anyone get in the way with your walk with God. See, if you're not close with God, and maybe you're closer over here, and that's an idol. But to walk with God, if you have to distance yourself from something or someone, you have to do that in order to walk with God. And so we have to put all this space, separation from anything that wants to control you. And here's why. An idol doesn't care if you're near. That's why it says flee. Get away as quick as you can and as far as away you can. An idol doesn't care if you're not completely worshiping it, but it's just be close. Just be close. Why? Because idols know that over time it has almost a spiritual gravitational pull. And if you're near me, I'll get you. If you have a weak spot here, and you're keeping it in your home, it's only a matter of time, I got you. And you're thinking about me, and I know you're thinking about me. And if there's not that distance, I'll capture you. So they don't care if you're near, because they know if you're not fleeing and you're near, you will get nearer. And it'll reach out its arms, and it'll pull you in. And that's why you have to get completely away from idols. God says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You shall have no other gods before me. And may we put no other thing that can be labeled a god before us. I go, don't be crazy. Flee idolatry. Don't be crazy, because it'll get you. Would you pray with me? Lord, thank you this morning for your word. Lord, thank you for your love. That's never ending. And we show your love in part toward you by fleeing all things that get in our way of being close with you. It could be almost anything. God, this is one of the most important things. And we need your help. We also need the the accountability and the encouragement of others in the body to come alongside, to walk the kind of life that you desire from us. So may we become that person to others. May we look and invite others into our world to help us, because we all need help. We all have at least some idols at time that we go toward. And thanks for loving us despite sometimes our disobedience or our lack of zeal for you. And we're still amazed that you always want to spend more time with us than we want to spend time with you. So we thank you, we worship you this morning in Christ's name. Amen.